Hello, everybody. I have a couple questions I'm going to answer. One of them comes from the members area. I normally answer questions, experiential questions, in the members area because it usually involves instructing people on inquiry and following up with them, like helping them with that. But this one I think we can do publicly because I don't think there's a lot of follow-up. I'll get to the experiential question second. The first question, if I can remember the nature of it here. Let me paraphrase this. It's fairly long. Essentially, they're saying, Scott, you mentioned that feel everything, as I've said, but that's not enough, that the mind has to be brought in. Why is that? Because if I'm feeling everything, aren't emotions or the body, isn't that what it's all about? So I'm feeling everything, isn't that it? Technically, yes, but hear me out for a second. There's a mind-body connection, and when you're just with emotion, sometimes you don't get the insight as to what the actual trigger is. Remember, our triggers are really unconscious. So when you're triggered by your wife or something, chances are you're feeling something, but you're not seeing, again, because trauma doesn't arise as a memory. It arises as that reaction. Or your repression of emotion does not arise as programming that you can see. It's a reaction. Okay, so just understanding that's trauma research. Therefore, just feeling these things doesn't get to the nature of that. So you might feel upset when your wife does something, and so the idea of feel everything. But you may not see that in that moment, the reason that you're feeling all that pain is because you're believing something. And this may be an identity or a program that you've believed since you were a kid, but it's unconscious. So it's producing this experience of the trigger, but you can't see the content of it. It's like walking around in the dark. So you feel the emotion, you allow it, at some point it falls away, but the programming that was behind it remains unseen. As you start to, so in inquiry and KI, it's mind-body. So when we're dealing with emotions, we're looking to see, or sensations, we're seeing what are the programs that are driving that, because that helps us clear the body. Strangely, this is a hard one to get, but these sensations and these contractions and the chronic pain, as I've said before, are locked down and unavailable to us. Like many of us are having trouble dissolving them, in other words, seeing through them, because the material there is unconscious. It's literally, we cannot see the programming that's contained in that area until we can see it. So if you're just feeling everything, then when you're getting triggered, maybe you're feeling a contraction or an emotion at the most, but you're not seeing the programming connected to the emotion, let alone the buried emotion, the contraction. As you start to do KI, it's like your operating system comes online. You can see, oh, I have to hide. That's why the stomach feels that way, and that's why I'm doing this. In this moment I feel unlovable. That's why. See, insight. So therefore, then you have that insight. You're aware of your operating system, so that when you get triggered the next time, it's not a mystery. You can see it more freely. You're aware of it. And not just the feeling, but you see the programmings, the memories. And by seeing is always good. Seeing is transformation. Once you can see something, you can see that you're not it, or just allow it. But if you can't see it, you can't do that. So when you're just feeling things, there's a lot of programming in your mind that you don't see. And yet there's a mind-body connection. So for every one of those triggers, there's a whole network of thoughts and beliefs and assumptions coming from the past that you can't see. It's just not enough, is what I'm saying, to go really deep, including into the contractions or the... So it's good to feel everything with regard to emotion, for sure. Throughout the day, an emotion comes up, feel, allow. But the emotions that are locked down because you haven't been open to feel those throughout your life, those aren't even emotions anymore. Remember, those emotions are concretized into contraction or chronic pain. They don't even show up as anger or sadness anymore. and they're not showing you the thoughts. Those thoughts are unconscious. So in the trigger, if you're just feeling everything, you're really in the dark when it comes to chronic pain and contraction. Just might as well just turn off all the lights, because there's a lot that you don't see. So feeling everything in the moment that you're triggered when it comes to a contraction isn't really that helpful. You can feel it, but it's all locked down in there. The stories, the programs, the repressed emotions. See that? So feeling everything actually becomes unskillful at a certain point. It's great for the emotions that are arising that you can feel, but even for that, I think it's good to see also the thoughts that are around the emotions. But with contractions and chronic pain, it's absolutely necessary for some people to see the programming. Otherwise, how do you even know that the pain that you're feeling is actually coming from repression of joy? How would you know that? By feeling everything. Because the joy is repressed. You're not going to feel joy. And you're not going to feel the absence of joy when it's repressed. What you're going to feel is contraction or pain. But by feeling that, you miss the programming of, I have to shut joy down to protect myself. You miss the memories, all the programs that are connected to that repression. See? So feel everything is, this whole thing, like everything arises to awareness, feel and allow everything, to me are beginning instructions. That's all. Whereas before, it was like, that's the Holy Grail. That's everything. It isn't. It's just the foundation, because there's certain things that don't arise. So if you just use the foundational instructions, you're going to keep in a lot of unconsciousness undiscovered, is what most people are experiencing there. Okay, there's that question. Hopefully that's clear. Now I've forgotten the second question. Oh, so a member came up with the question. So as people are discovering this mind-body connection, what they're discovering now that we can work with contraction and chronic pain so much more skillfully now, they're actually seeing that these areas of chronic pain and contraction are like trash cans. Meaning everything you didn't want to think or feel or own just gets thrown in there. Hence, the pain is all located in one area. But so as you start rummaging through the trash can with KI, healing that really, you're going to bump up against certain programs that are stuck. Like the one that came up for me in some of the worst pain for me was, I'm disgusting. And it came from, here's the thing, that didn't even show up in my awareness in everyday life. Like, I didn't have a sense that on some level I thought I was disgusting from growing up gay, basically. When the whole world is against you, like growing up gay in the 80s, you like think that you're something wrong with you, or you're disgusting, but buried. And then the awakening happened, buried in the spine. So, wasn't even aware of it. So if there was any disgust feeling that came up, I suppose I could have just felt it, but there was no sense of the identity there. At some point in KI, working with the pain, the words, I'm disgusting, came up as a deep voice connected to the pain in my spine. And I was doing exactly what the member is asking about right now. So the member is saying that as they're doing the somatic work, they're bumping up against a particular program, words, and it's like a stare down. It's like the awareness is just looking at the words and nothing's happening. Like a deer in headlights stuck. And that's exactly what I had with I'm disgusting at first. Okay. Many of us are in the business of trying to annihilate self. First of all, before we go back to this I'm disgusting thing, do a little inquiry here with me. I just want you to feel into your inner body, kind of look at your life as it plays out in thoughts a little bit, and then just say, I don't want to get rid of myself. See if there's a yes, I do there. Or you can switch to, I don't want to get rid of painful thoughts and feelings. Because that's part of the self, isn't it? It's not just all bliss and glory. I don't want to get rid of painful thoughts. I don't want to get rid of this sensation. whatever it is. So now if you're getting a yes, I do, you're discovering the programming within that wants to annihilate self. And that programming is often attracted to non-duality, because non-duality shows you, oh, well, the self is an illusion. So the part that wants to annihilate self gets pulled into that pointing, because it offers the promise of seeing through that, not having to deal with that human stuff anymore. The problem with that is that desire to, there is no self. So the annihilation of self is actually the annihilation of thoughts and feelings. Those aspects of self we don't like, pushing down. And success would be then, if I've pushed it down or it's gone away, at least if I don't experience it, success. That's not success on the body embodiment path, to have pushed it down in favor of presence, because all of that is frozen potential in that trash can. So rediscovering those thoughts and welcoming them into awareness is how the shifting happens. All the stuff in the trash can. Frozen potential thaws out. The desire to annihilate oneself falls away. Once you see that for what it is, that's part of the repression mechanism that wants to get rid of certain thoughts and feelings. That thing can easily get involved with non-duality. But after a while, if you just inquire on that, the inquiry I just gave you, I don't need to get rid of myself. Then the programming of wanting to get rid of yourself will come up and you can see it. Anything you can bring into awareness like that, you can see it for what it is and kind of let that come and go. If you don't see it though, it's going to run things. So what I say is work with that first. Before you get real busy with non-duality, why don't you look at this story that I want to annihilate myself or get rid of myself? Because eventually you're going to have to deal with that story. And it happens, I think, for some people when they bump up against, like the member, is whatever practice that you were doing before to see that you weren't this or that or whatever, it's not going to work now. Like at this level, when you're staring face to face with a strong energy that has a thought there, the annihilation of self and the repression mechanism are going to have to go away at this point. They cannot run the show. So the desire to annihilate that will backfire. When I bumped up against I am disgusting, it's a lot like when I let my dog Elio out. So Elio's his own dog. When I let Elio out, if I try to get him to come in, like I yell at him, it doesn't work. It's like if I try to get rid of this I'm disgusting thought or whatever it is, it doesn't work because it adds resistance. It's not working. If I do nothing if I just stand there and say nothing and do nothing with Elio, still it doesn't work. That also doesn't work when you're just, people say just be awareness. The problem is this, there's still such unconscious resistance there. You're not actually resting as awareness. You're resting perhaps with a story that I have to get rid of that, or with some sort of unconscious resistance. So just standing there doing nothing and staring at it, the unconscious resistance is at play, so it doesn't work. What works for Elio is only when I turn towards Elio lovingly and welcome him in. Like, it's okay, babe, come on in. It's okay, come on in. Yeah, it's good, come on in. See, different disposition, different way of relating to Elio. Now, if this thought's up, knowing that there's already built-in resistance, I don't want to do nothing. Because doing nothing just keeps that resistance in place. Stare down. I don't want to try to get rid of it, because that's actually the mechanism of resistance. Welcome it. If the thoughts I'm disgusting, welcome that. I love you. You're welcome to stay. Come closer. Because that's the opposite of repression. That's the opposite of I want to annihilate myself. That's the opposite of resistance. And that's what transforms things on that level is love and only love. Allowing, fully allowing and welcoming. And so this is how people have to adjust their path sometimes, because if you've been in the business of like where your repression mechanism is involved with the pointing or the practices like, that's not me, I don't like that, that's not me, that fell away, let me see if I can get this to fall away, I don't want this feeling, this story isn't me, I'm presence, I'm presence, I'm presence. It's fine, except for that's not going to work on the embodiment stage like that. The recognition that you're not any of the things coming and going is really just the foundation from which you're going to go into the places in the body where there's frozen potential. And when you come face to face with these very strongly identified thoughts that are connected to that sensation, the only way is love at that point, is what I'm saying. When you come face to face with that, you're going to have to adjust the way you're doing things. So this whole idea, I'm just going to witness this and let it go, or doing something to try to get rid of it, like with Elio, is not going to work. You're going to be forced into loving that, surrendering to it, to allowing it. And that's going to show you and teach you then, by working with the deeper somatic stuff that's like that, you're going to maybe change the way you're relating to all phenomena now. Go back to your path, and instead of trying to annihilate things, love, welcome, let this be. Can this feeling just be exactly as it is? Can I let this thought, can I make these thoughts stay just by looking at them? Can I let this feeling stay just by feeling it? It's different disposition on the embodiment path, because all those ways in which you were trying to get rid of that doesn't work when you get to the trash can. You have to do something different there. So here's just a few techniques, and you can use this then in all of your looking. Again, welcome. And I don't just mean like say you're welcome. Like sometimes you have to even get your body into it. Like, it's okay. Like, I want this to be here. You're welcome to be here. I love you. Thank you for arising. And literally, like you're coaxing an animal into the doorway. See yourself as like open awareness. And it's like if you were coaxing, a friend of mine told me this analogy, which was nice. There's a deer, you're the open field. There's a deer hiding in the forest. Coax the deer out lovingly. Like if you had that disposition, or when you see or feel something, can you make something stay just by seeing it? There are words there. Can you make it stay just by seeing it? Sometimes that just takes you just to pure seeing and the resistance leaves. Or can I feel this feeling exactly as it is and make it stay just by feeling it? See, that takes all the resistance out. It's just feeling it from awareness. The path is as much about how you're relating to what's arising as it is to what's arising. So, hope this helps.